Well, hello, boys and girls. Welcome to Storytime Theatre. I'm going to be reading you 2 stories today from this book. It is called The Aesop for Children. It is a story of fables, which are stories that were written long, long ago and passed down, and they often, or almost always, teach you a lesson. So I was going to read this one, The Hare and the Tortoise, but then I saw this other one called The Dog and His Reflection. So I decided to read both to you. So I'll start with this one, The Dog and His Reflection. And you can see here that the dog is looking into the water and he sees his reflection. So it kind of acts like a mirror. You can see yourself in the water, a reflection. Let's find out what the lesson is in this story. A dog to whom the butcher had thrown a bone was hurrying home with his prize as fast as he could go. As he crossed a narrow footbridge, he happened to look down and saw himself reflected in the quiet water as if in a mirror. But the greedy dog thought he saw a real dog carrying a bone much bigger than his own. So he has a big bone from a butcher, and as he's going by this water, crossing the bridge, he sees his reflection and he thinks it's a dog, a bigger dog holding a bigger bone than he has. If he had stopped to think, he would have known better, but instead of thinking, he dropped his bone and sprang at the dog in the river, only to find himself swimming for dear life to reach the shore. At last, he managed to scramble out, and as he stood sadly thinking about the good bone he had lost, he realized what a silly dog he had been. And the moral, the lesson of this story is, it is very foolish to be greedy. And that just means he didn't really make a good choice because he had a great bone, but because he saw one bigger, he decided to go for that, and then he lost the great thing that he already had. All right, and the second one is called The Hare and the Tortoise. So here's the hare, another word for rabbit, and here's the tortoise. And that is like a turtle, except it lives on land. Let's see what happens. A hare was making fun of the tortoise one day for being so slow. "Do you ever get anywhere?" he asked with a mocking laugh. "Yes," replied the tortoise, "and I get there sooner than you think. I'll run you a race and prove it." The hare was much amused at the idea of running a race with the tortoise, but for the fun of the thing he agreed. So the fox, who had consented to act as a judge, marked the distance and started the runners off. So there's going to be a race between the hare and the tortoise, which moves very, very slowly. Who do you think's going to win the race? The hare was soon far out of sight, and to make the tortoise feel very deeply how ridiculous it was for him to try to race with the hare, he lay down beside the course to take a nap until the tortoise should catch up. So he stops to take a little nap while he waits for the tortoise to get a little closer. The tortoise, meanwhile, kept going slowly but steadily, and after a time passed the place where the hare was sleeping. But the hare slept on very peacefully, and when at last he did wake up, the tortoise was near the goal. The hare now ran his swiftest, but he could not overtake the tortoise in time. And the moral of the lesson of this story is, the race is not always to the swift. And that means that sometimes you have to think a little. If the hare had just run the race, he would have won. But instead, he tried to out-trick the tortoise, and then he ended up being the one that lost the race. So he didn't think very much, did he? Tortoise won. Slow and steady always wins the race, too. Well, I'll see you all next time on Storytime Theatre. Bye.